Hello everybody, my name is Bragster and welcome back to F1 Manager, where today we have the Italian Grand Prix in Monza and the Singapore Grand Prix. The last episode seemed to go alright for us actually, which is surprising, but it seemed to go alright, and that train kind of continued in the Italian Grand Prix. So yeah, I'm just going to let Connor take you through it. Right, so before we go into things, we are designing a new suspension, quite frankly, because we need a new one. We haven't had one since the start of the game, so we're doing that. And for the performance targets, we are going very traditional. Just reach Q3, we're going to carry on with our position streaks, just the usual. And speaking of the usual kind of happened in Q1 as well. We just qualified reasonably comfortably. Everyone's sort of qualified where they're supposed to or where they usually do. So Q1 actually went down rather well. For Q2, however, it didn't go down as well. We were a lot slower on this track than we wanted to be and than we usually are. So we ended up actually qualifying in 11th and 13th. We were just a little bit slower, not much slower than Joe, who was in 10th, but just enough so we went out in Q2. So that means that we're going straight almost into the race immediately, and it was going to be a wet race. The weather was going to change about halfway through. We were going to go from mediums to wets on both drivers, but when we picked these guys, was going to depend on which driver really. We were going to push with Ricciardo first and take the risk of pitting Ricciardo earlier than Norris in relation to when the weather was going to change. And we wanted a quick start, but it didn't really happen. The only thing that did happen was Danny Ric managed to overtake Ocon towards the end of the very first lap. But Norris and Danny Ric didn't manage to do that much. They ended up just swapping between each other. And we had some early pit stops, some pit stops that surprised us. People, I think, going from softs to mediums really early on. So they pushed on at the start and then went on to the mediums. But we all believed that a one-stop strategy was the way to go. And when the rain started coming, the one-stop strategy began as we decided to pit Danny Ric. And it was risky to pit Danny Ric as well, because the weather had started early and we were expecting a steep incline, but we didn't know whether that was going to happen because our weather centre was wrong. We then ended up actually pitting Norris not long after that onto the wets. We didn't change our strategy. We decided to go with it, take that risk and go for that one stop. And we might be slower now, but it means we only pit once rather than twice. So we might be able to make up some ground when everyone else is pitting from their inters to the wets, as a lot of people were actually still on mediums at that time. And then when people started pitting, we started climbing that little bit more as well, which was wonderful to see. And the weather started to change quite a lot, and once we sort of got out there, we ended up being about 8th, 11-ish, depending on sort of what was going on. And then the weather hit us hard. It really did hit us hard, and everyone was starting to pit. Not many took the risk of going straight onto the wets, but it looked like it was going to pay off because a lot of the people above us were on inters. But kind of once a lot of people had pitted, we ended up 6th and 8th. So not in the most amazing position, as we had a Ferrari and a Red Bull battling it out with us. So we knew we were going to lose those places. And we did end up losing those places as the Red Bull ended up overtaking us, as all were expecting at this point. But it wasn't the end of the world. We were still in a very decent position. We had a chance of getting into a good position. But the weather ended up changing, actually. It ended up going down. And our weather centre was telling us that it was only going to get drier from here. So we decided, let's pit for the inters, let's push at the end. It was what everyone else was going to do, so we decided to copy. We decided to not actually go against what everyone else did. We decided to go with what everyone else did. And then after those pits, we ended up 7th and 10th. So we're in a decent position going into the final few laps of the race. And as the race came to an end, Danny Ric ended up coming in 7th, with Norris, after fighting valiantly against Alonso for the last few laps of the race, ended up finishing in 9th, which was absolutely brilliant for us. It wasn't the best race in the world, but bear in mind that we qualified 11th and 13th. We still managed to gain on where we ended up qualifying, and getting some points. We ended up getting 8 points. Again, outdoing the Alpines, who are falling behind at this point. But the Mercedes ended up getting a lot of points against us, which we didn't want to see. So although we were moving away from the Alpines, we are left behind a little bit by the Mercedes going into the Singapore Grand Prix. And for those wondering about the cost cap, it ended up being voted through. So the cost cap has decreased for the next season, and our drivers got a bunch of development points, so they should be better going into this race. So now you're all caught up and you know the situation that we're in, where Danny Ric actually outperformed Lando Norris in the last race. We're here at the Singapore Grand Prix. We are nearing the end, literally at the bottom, last few episodes now. This is like, we've got only 3 episodes past this point, so if we are going to get points to catch up the likes of Mercedes, we're going to need them now. But we also need to be mindful of Alpine and make sure that we don't fall behind. And that's going to continue today. If we go through to our performance targets, let's just reach Q3. I'm reasonably confident we can do that. I don't think we can set the fastest lap, and currently we're on a streak. So everything should be set. So shall we see how we'll actually do? So qualifying has begun in Singapore. We aren't expecting any rain whatsoever during qualifying or the race, actually. So this should be, weirdly, after the last few episodes, quite a traditional qualifying session and race. It's been a while since we've had one of those. Right, so after everyone has done their first laps, we're currently sitting in 10th and 13th. I'm going to send them out on used softs because at the end of the day, Mick Schumacher and everyone else, whoa, as I nearly forgot to actually pay attention there. Mick Schumacher and the Aston Martins and the Williamses aren't really on our level, so we should be, not the big word, be fine. And weirdly, the Alpines didn't do very well. I wonder whether they got held up. But we have got a lot of grid penalties to go through as well, because I'm guessing this is the time where everyone's having to change gearboxes, ERS systems, and engines. So it's going to be interesting for sure. There's been a crash. I mean, that's reasonably good for us because that means no one's going to move. Latifi has crashed. There he is. It's not popped up on the screen at the top. Here we are. Latifi has crashed on turn 13. How in the world did that happen? Because that slowed us down massively. Oh, he just went into the side. God bless Latifi. God bless Latifi, because we're fine for the rest of this qualifying session. So, because everyone's had to slow down. So this is wonderful for us, really. I'm not really going to complain whatsoever. Latifi is out and on the bottom. Our times are probably going to be reasonably slow, but I do not care because everyone else's times are going to be slow. So I think we can sit back and relax. So after that eventful crashing qualifying session, we are here in Q2. I'm kind of expecting Danny Ric to go out and maybe Norris to finish in 10th. It's going to be really, really difficult, I feel like, to just do well here with both drivers. I think we're going to have to probably sacrifice one at some point, even in the race, I feel like. Unless there's another crash. If anyone else wants to crash, that'd be absolutely wonderful because that'd actually help me out. There's been another crash. I was joking about the fact of needing another crash. Perez is actually the one that has crashed. I think he's already set a time though, so he might be okay. But he has crashed into the wall. He might end up finishing in 10th. It depends if he's out. I don't think he's out. I think he's okay. Which I can't tell if that's good or bad for us. But he seems to be able to go out again. But I was going to say that we are currently in 9th and 13th, roughly where I was expecting, and we might have been held up a little bit because of the situation we were in. So I think we're in a good position, especially if Perez has mucked up that car, because if we can get into Q3 and his car is mucked up, we might be able to do something. Right, so everyone is out again for their final flying lap. We're going to need something good from Danny Ric. We're looking down here, and what we need is greens, and he's got one in the first sector. He needs to go green all the way to stand a chance. Norris is actually going slower despite being on faster tyres. So, I mean, on fresher tyres. That's a bit concerning from Lando Norris. Hopefully that doesn't impede us too much. Alright, Danny Ric went up, but he actually ended up finishing above the Alpines, was what he ended up doing. And Norris has ended up in the top 10. So Norris is in Q3 and Danny Ric is 13th. So we ended up finishing 10th and 13th, exactly where expected. However, that might not be where Danny Ric ends up, because as you can see, Gasly, Magnussen and Tsunoda all have grid penalties. So do Vettel and Latifi, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, so I expect Danny Ric to actually end up in 12th, maybe even higher. But the fact that he's out-qualified both Alpines is also very good, because they're our direct rivals. To absolutely no one's surprise, after that first lap, we've ended up in 10th and actually quite a way off the other people in the qualifying session. Now, we were on used tyres rather than the fresh softs, so that might play a factor, but I'd only presume that everyone else also went out on some used softs. That was what I'd presume, but I could be wrong. Norris is in the final sector of this final lap in qualifying, and unfortunately, he has gone amber in one of those sectors. So I can't imagine us improving too much, to be honest with you. If we can improve, then great, but I don't think we will, and we don't. Even though those were much fresher tyres, I don't know why, but Norris just couldn't improve his time, so he does finish in 10th for this qualifying session. However, Magnussen has qualified in 9th and Gasly in 7th, so actually Norris will probably start in 8th. Where Ricciardo ends up, I have no idea. It depends on how many penalties these guys have taken. Right, so we start in this race in 8th and 11th after those grid penalties, and we've decided to split the strategies. We're going quick early with Ricciardo, having him go from softs to mediums, but we're going to have Lando Norris going from mediums to softs. We've just basically switched him around. Norris, it makes sense to maybe it might start a little bit slower, but then he can pick it up right at the end, whereas with Ricciardo, it's about pushing as quickly as possible, then maybe holding a few people back so Norris doesn't lose that much time. It'd be something along those lines. It's going to be an interesting race for sure. If Ricciardo can make up a few positions early on, even if Norris can, this is going to be a really interesting race for us, but that start has got to be good. It's got to be really good.
And it's lights out, and away we go.
Right, so here we are at the Singapore Grand Prix. Danny Ric looks like he might have lost a place already to Alonso, whereas Norris has actually overtaken Russell early on, which is huge. I love to see that. Absolutely love to see that. And Ricciardo's managed to get his place back. So, come on, Danny Ric, you need to do well here. Less so with Norris. Norris can just kind of relax. But we'll watch this overtake here as Norris overtakes Russell really early on, and bear in mind that Russell often holds a lot of cars back, so that could be a brilliant overtake there. If he manages to hold that on Russell and Russell ends up holding a lot of cars back, then Norris is in the clear almost, and we almost don't have to have Danny Ric doing that job. And it looks like Norris is actually overtaken again. He seems to have overtaken Bottas. Bottas is on the softs, but Norris seems to have overtaken him. This is huge moves by Norris. If Norris can keep this up, this is amazing. We'll watch this one as well. Lando Norris decides to go around, is it the inside? He goes up the inside of Bottas, and there you go. He gains that place. Again, creating distance from the rest of the pack. This is exactly what we need him to do. This is brilliant, Lando Norris. And everyone's going wild. Everyone's going mental. Because Lando Norris is the man. And he's doing this on the mediums, remember. This is huge. If we look at what everyone else is doing, Norris is one of the only ones on mediums. So if Norris actually ends up doing well on the mediums and then goes onto the softs while everyone else is on mediums and hards, we're in a really, really good position with Lando Norris. But the only person that is concerning me a little is Danny Ric. Danny Ric hasn't really made too much progress. He's kind of managed to keep his position, but that's about it. He hasn't done much more beyond that, which is a little concerning, I'm not going to lie. Because I kind of want him in the top 10 and in the top 10 fast. As there was a failed overtake there. But this one might not have failed. Lando Norris might have overtaken Hamilton here. Is he going to be able to take Hamilton? No way he's going to be able to take Hamilton. This is a really close fought battle. It looks like Hamilton's going to get the better of him. Although Norris is going down the inside, this is really wheel-to-wheel racing here between Norris and Hamilton. Hamilton's got to drop off at some point, or Norris has got to drop off, but neither of them want to drop. Neither of them want to drop off, and Norris has managed to overtake Hamilton. That is huge. Norris on the mediums, overtaking everyone on these softer tyres. That is incredible stuff from Lando Norris. And if he can stay in front of Hamilton, like, you can see Bottas is starting to lose ground with Hamilton. And then Zhou's actually lost ground with Russell. So Norris is in a great position here. If he can maintain this distance with these guys and get DRS off of these guys, they can pull away fast. Right, so DRS has come into play. On the next straight that we get, DRS will be in. Ricciardo's managed to lose Alonso, so we've got that safety net there. So Ricciardo's going to be in this battle, but Norris has lost touch with Perez. I was hoping he wouldn't, but he has lost touch with Perez, which means that there's a current train here of Norris, Hamilton, Bottas and Russell. And if them guys could keep swapping and changing, that'd actually be great for us, because we'll end up in a really good position. But we do need Danny Rick to do something rather than staying in the position he was always in. Norris, though, has actually gone down to P7, which is really, really annoying. Bottas ended up taking him. I didn't expect that to happen, but it seemed like as Norris was gearing up to maybe overtake Hamilton, Bottas ended up coming up the inside and taking him. So, annoying as that is, it's not the end of the world. As long as we maintain and remain in this train, we should be okay. Unfortunately, Norris's troubles on these mediums are starting to come into play as Russell does overtake him on the softs. So we lost DRS range with Hamilton and Bottas, and now we've been overtaken by Russell. It just seems like these mediums definitely don't have the pace that the softs do, which is upsetting, but is expected. I just expected more people to be going down the strategy of mediums to softs. So I don't know why none of them are, but hopefully it works in my favour rather than theirs. Something to note, though, is the fact that Russell is now leading this train. Gasly, Ricciardo and Zhou have all caught up. Ricciardo's just overtaken Zhou. So if we can keep these guys in this train here, and Norris just keeps up with Russell, this wouldn't be the end of the world at all. Just, we got to make sure that Danny Rick doesn't lose ground like it's saying he is here. They have lost ground, so Danny Rick did end up losing ground. I don't know how he lost ground there whatsoever, but he did end up losing ground, and now has been overtaken back by Zhou. Annoying as how, for certain. I mean, luckily we've left the Alpines for dead, so unless there's a crash, we should be okay. We've just got to make sure to maintain in this little train here and wait for what strategies end up working. So something of note is the fact that Danny Rick has actually lost touch with Zhou. These two were battling for ages, and I don't know what happened, but Ricciardo just suddenly went miles behind, so I wonder if he had to brake hard while overtaking or something. This train seems to be working reasonably well with Gasly, Russell and Norris. Norris is just keeping up with them through DRS. He's not even really overtaking. He's just making sure he keeps up. We've had our first pit stop from Perez. Perez has gone on to the harder tyres. So he's pitted early and has gone straight onto these harder tyres. I'm guessing some people are burning through their softs a little bit more, especially the guys at the top are burning through them a little bit more than the likes of Zhou and Ricciardo. But, I mean, if he's going on to the hards, when I pit for some softs, I should be able to make up some ground with Norris. I'm guessing a bunch of these guys are going to go on to the hards as well. So, this is now a very interesting time because we're having a lot of people on these softs pitting now, and I don't think that's the right decision. I'm not going to lie, going from these softs to the hard, for me, is not the right decision from here on out. I think there's still a lot left in these softer tyres, and I think going from mediums to having the mediums in play rather than the hards is the better option. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right. Right, this is going to be really, really weird to say, but we are leading the Singapore Grand Prix. That is right. We're leading it. Leclerc has ended up coming out on the mediums in the end from the softs. I'm guessing he's going to try and make that last to the end, but based off of our prediction, mediums isn't going to make it to the end. So are they going to stop? Because if you tried to go mediums now, it would not work. There's just no chance it would work. So I don't know what he's doing, but Norris is leading this race. Danny Ric is third in this race. They seem to be some of the only people not to have pitted, which does concern me. And I'm pretty sure Ricciardo's the only person who started the race on softs, still on softs. So that does concern me just a tad. But I think we're doing quite fine. I mean, Ricciardo's got a lot of time left on these softs. He's having a jolly good time. We're having a jolly good time. I mean, yes, we're going to get overtaken by the Verstappens, the Sainz, and the Perez's. However, I don't think we're in a bad position with Ricciardo here. Because if we ended up pitting Ricciardo now, he'd come out 15th. That's not very good. But we'd hope that we'd come out a lot higher than that. Right, so I've just looked at the strategy, and apparently mediums can work from here. So what I'm going to do is actually tell Ricciardo to be a bit more aggressive on these tyres. Try and really point up a gap. So when he does end up pitting, he ends up pitting and coming out around that 9th, 10th mark is kind of what I'm hoping for. Because everyone else on the softs has pitted, so we may as well take advantage of these softs and try and burn them a little bit more than what we would have done. So what I've done is I have told Ricciardo to hold cars behind, hold back cars behind. That's kind of what I'm hoping to do, because when Perez eventually catches Ricciardo, I'm just hoping that basically he can hold them up, create enough of a gap, because if we are to pit Norris now, we would go down to 13th apparently. I don't know really how much time we lose during pit stops, but that's roughly where we were planning to come out at the moment. So if he ends up holding them behind, maybe we wouldn't end up in such a bad position with Norris, because Norris is currently cruising a little bit. We can go a bit more aggressive on these tyres. Similar to what we've done with Danny Ric. But Ric's pit window has been entered now. So, wait a minute. I've just told you to hold cars up behind Danny Ric. And you've lost your place already. So what I'm actually going to do is just push with Danny Ric as much as we can. To try and keep up with Perez. And then we're going to basically pit him, is what we're going to do. Whereas with Norris, we're just kind of cruising with Norris at the moment. Norris is having a great time. We've just got to keep it the way it is. And hopefully when we pit him, he won't end up coming out in 13th. Because we've got that 9-second gap now to Perez, which will help us out massively. Danny Ric seems to be losing places on a Perez that's on harder tyres, which is rather annoying. We're going to pit Ricciardo right now. We're going to do it right now. We're going to pit him, and we're going to get him to push to try and gain as much time as possible. I don't know how that's going to go. What we have done is told Norris to actually burn his tyre a little bit more, because quite frankly he's conserving it really, really well when he doesn't need to conserve it. So Danny Ric is in. We're kind of going to see how long he spends in the pits, because for whatever reason, it seems to be taking a while that you end up in the pits. So you end up losing so much time in these pits. It's ridiculous. You end up losing 35 seconds. So Danny Ric is now out in 14th position. He's got a lot of making up to do. That is for sure. And I don't know if he's going to be capable of doing it, because everyone else, actually Mick, Alonso and Tsunoda still have to pit, and so does Norris. So it might not be too bad, but he's going to be in a fight for like 10th rather than what we were hoping would be like 8th and 9th. But yeah, not great for the Danny Ric situation. Norris is now predicted to come out in 10th, which is huge. So that means he's made up enough room now where he's predicted to come out in 10th, which would be brilliant. Bear in mind that Alonso does still have to pit. So we would end up more in ninth with Norris, and he'll be coming out on the softer tyres as well. So he might be able to make up a lot of ground right at the end and hopefully end up in this like 6th, 7th position. That's the hope with Norris. Right, so we're getting Lando Norris to push now. We might end up actually telling him to push on everything for an extra lap or two than we wanted to, just to basically get the most out of these tyres and push them as far as possible. Ricciardo's actually ended up overtaking Tsunoda, which is cool, but we are predicted to come out in 10th, sorry, not 9th. So here we go. So we're past the pit lane now. We're going to push on absolutely everything, and we're going to go onto the softer tyres, which have the most life in them. And yeah, we should be in a great position. So Lando Norris currently predicted to come out in 10th. He might not, he might end up coming out earlier than that, but I do think 10th is probably expected at this point. Danny Rick, however, where is he? What's he looking like? He looks like he's actually trying to close down on Mick. But you got to remember, Mick and Tsunoda still have to pit. So does Alonso, actually. Alonso still has to pit. And Alonso's been out there a while. Like, I know Norris is on these mediums, but Alonso's been out there a while. So he's probably coming out on the softs as well. But Alonso will end up probably behind Danny Rick just for the amount, for the times that people are going at, as Alonso ends up losing a place. But yeah, so we're not focusing on Alonso, I don't think, at this point, because when he pits, he should be out, really, of where we're kind of looking. How far down can Lando Norris go? That is the question, as Norris is pitting for the softer tyres. He's coming out in 10th by the looks of things. He does come out in 10th behind Russell, but in front of Zhou, as Ricciardo has actually ended up taking Mick Schumacher, which again is huge for us, because now he can start closing down on Zhou. So we've gotten past the two people who still need to pit, and now we're closing in on some actual points positions, because Zhou's currently in 11th, but when Alonso pits, he's going to end up in 10th. So we're currently fighting for points. Some huge news. Not only did Russell end up taking over Alonso, so did Lando Norris. So we haven't even got to worry about Alonso pitting anymore. Alonso pitting is just going to free up the door for Ricciardo. But for Norris, at this point now, he's got to forget about Alonso, and we're in a great position with Lando Norris. It might work. Okay, we've had a crash. We've been told we've got a crash, as Lando Norris is actually overtaking Russell here. We've got a crash. Schumacher has crashed. We're going to have a look at it, because it might end up coming into play. We might see a virtual safety car or something like that. Mick Schumacher ends up going into the side there. For me, I feel like we might have to see a virtual safety car, which, if so, will actually help us out, especially with Norris, because it means he can push on those softer tyres a little bit more towards the end of the race. Are we going to see a virtual safety car? No, we're not. It's just going to be forgotten about. That's a massive surprise for us, as Norris, I thought we were going to say, has overtaken Russell, but then Russell had managed to get DRS right at the perfect moment. But it feels like it's inevitable that Norris is going to overtake Russell, as Ricciardo is very slowly, very slowly catching up Zhou. I told you it was inevitable. Lando Norris has overtaken George Russell. He went around the outside of him and made it pretty easy, to be honest. It was on the DRS straight, so he's managed to pull away as well. Lando Norris, on comes the next victim. A safety car has been deployed. DRS has been disabled.
Okay, safety car deployed, safety car deployed.
Safety car? I really don't know.
Drive to the Delta, drive to the Delta.
Oh my god, we're going to ignore it for now. What has gone on here? What in the world has gone on? No overtaking permitted. We're going to conserve on everything.
We've had a crash.
Magnussen has crashed on turn 13. What in the world has happened with K-Mags? It seems like the same spot. It is the exact same spot we saw the crash in last time, but apparently that one is worse and deserves a safety car. The one before, nah, that one's fine. This one apparently deserves a safety car, which I can't tell if this is good or bad. I really can't tell. if this is good or bad for us. I'm only going to see what everyone else does. Alonso does take the opportunity to pit, which is rather convenient that somehow he was on the mediums for God knows how many laps, and then all of a sudden the safety car comes. There's a lot of back markers. There's going to be a lot of back markers in this little train here. It says a lot when Norris is 8th, and look at the amount of people that are here. Ricciardo's actually going to end up really far back in this train. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we actually pitted Ricciardo for some softer tyres, just based off of the fact that, quite frankly, he'll end up at the back anyway, so it probably would be reasonably smart in game terms to pit him, because he literally, look, it'd end up in 11th if we ended up pitting him. I think it might actually be smart, you know. Yeah, I'm pitting him. I can't believe I'm saying it. I'm actually pitting Ricciardo. I'm going to take a risk that I don't usually do on the game, and that is safety car is ending. What do you mean safety car is ending? No, let's cancel the pit stop then. Cancel the pit stop. Can we cancel it? More options. Can we cancel it? Cancel pit stop. Jesus Christ. So it managed to end. I thought we were going to use the game mechanics against the game, but no, that's not going to happen. So we're going to push, 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 push. Here we go. This is a very weird restart, but it's happening. Ricciardo is miles behind, so he won't actually gain that many places. But Norris has a chance of gaining some places, one of which is Gasly, who's actually in front of him right now. He's trying to overtake him. He can't quite do it, but I think it will happen. It's got to happen eventually. You know, he says his tyres are overheating. He's on the straight now. He's overtaking Gasly. One down, many more to go. Norris has actually overtaken Bottas. He's got his next victim. He's overtaken Bottas, and he's closing in on Hamilton. These softer tyres have ended up working perfectly for us, and the safety car ended up working perfectly for us as well. I can't believe we're in this situation, but we are making up positions and making up positions fast. And with Danny Rick actually setting the fastest lap, I can't believe he's done that. He's ended up setting the fastest lap, and if he ends up keeping that to his name, then he's going to be in a brilliant position himself. This is just absolutely brilliant. I cannot believe we're in this position, as Norris is actually going to try and overtake Hamilton here. And if he overtakes Hamilton, I'd actually fancy his chances of maybe overtaking Perez as well. He's just got to get Hamilton quick, really, before DRS becomes a bit of a problem. As he's overtaken here, he's going to overtake Hamilton. Norris has overtaken Hamilton. He's currently in 5th place. And we're closing in on the top 4. Yeah, Lando Norris, keep pushing, my man, because you're in a brilliant, brilliant position. Oh my God! Norris might actually be overtaking both of them. I don't know what's going on here. Norris has ended up overtaking Perez. He might be able to take it in signs. He might be getting a podium. Oh my God. Lando Norris has just done an amazing manoeuvre there to go through the middle of Perez and Sainz and ended up managing to pull it off rather than actually crashing. He's pulled it off. Let's watch it again. That was beautiful stuff by Lando Norris. He's in the middle of both of them, and rather than it hindering him, he's ended up managing to overtake both of them and put himself in a podium finish. We've got 2 people left to overtake and a lot of laps to go. Can we do this? Oh, DRS is disabled. This might end up being good for us in the end. A safety car. Another safety car. Are you kidding me? I mean, we're going to ignore both of them. We're going to go conservative with both of these boys. Because at this point, if you pit now, you're not gaining any places. So, another competitor's retired. It's ended up being Albon. It's a Williams that has ended up in the wall. Is it going to be the same wall? I think it's going to be the same wall. It's the exact same wall. It's pretty much the same wall. Or at least it's the same wall that was crashed into in qualifying. So, this is a weird, weird race. But yeah, we've got a safety car right at the end. We might be finishing the race behind a safety car, which I've never really seen before, to be honest with you. The one positive of this safety car that I didn't even think of is the fact that it's actually caught us up to the leaders. So if we end up pushing on all of these stuff, so we end up deploying, we end up pushing on these tyres right at the end, I know we might go a little bit under with these tyres, but we've got 3 laps. Could we possibly end up in a situation where we not only end up on the podium, but end up in a really good position when it comes to leading this race, or end up actually winning the race? That would be unbelievable if we can. I don't know if we will, but it's worth a shot, right? We're in this situation where it's bunched us closer to the leaders, so we may as well give it a good old go. It's also put Danny Rick closer to the rest of the pack as well, but also brought people closer to Danny Rick, although he's already lost Alonso, which is amazing to see. We've got to try as he overtakes Verstappen. Come on, Norris. Come on, Norris. Could we end up winning a race? There is no chance, surely, that we could end up winning a race here. No chance at all. Surely not. I mean, we can end up keep pushing with Danny Rick on his tyres, but we can't afford to. Oh, we can afford to. I've just realised. It's 30, not 40. I had it in my head that it was 30. That we'd end up, you know, it would end up having the warning signs. I forgot it's actually 30. So we can do one final push on the final lap. We're going to kind of stay middle ground of sort of trying to catch people up. And then this final lap, we are going to make one final push on Leclerc. One final crack at it to try and win this race. I can't believe I'm saying that. But there's a small, very small chance we can end up winning this race. And we've got to take it. We've got to take the opportunity. We've got to take those risks. I genuinely, I can't believe this. I'm glad it's failed. I'm glad it's failed because it means we're going to be behind going into the DRS area. Come on. Come on, Norris. You can do this, Norris. I believe Norris. He's got DRS on him. He's got DRS on Leclerc. He's gone past Leclerc. We are pushing. Push, Norris. We are in first with Lando Norris. Push. I swear to God, Norris. He's got nothing left in the tank. His ERS is empty. Ricardo's ERS is empty. How far has he left him? He's left him a little bit. Come on, Norris. Come on, Norris. We're right at the end of this race. If anyone could do it, it's Lando Norris to win our first race. Come on, Norris. You've got to do this. Danny Rick has unfortunately not been able to do anything. But however, he's done it. He's done it. Lando Norris has actually managed to win a race. Get in. Ricardo's ended up in 10th. That's a shame. Genuine shame. But our driver, Lando Norris, has picked up the victory in Singapore. The most unlikely of circumstances. McLaren have won a race. We've managed to win and get fastest lap. How? How have we done this? I'm genuinely in shock. Lando Norris, my absolute man. I can't believe we won a race. I genuinely can't believe we won a race. That was unbelievable stuff by Lando Norris. We've ended up taking so many points home in this race. I said we needed to try and catch up Mercedes. That is one way of doing it. Holy hell, Lando Norris. And there you have it. Lando Norris getting 25 points. Ricciardo ended up getting 2 points because he ended up getting fastest lap, which is incredible stuff. Like, we ended up not having that many losers. We just gained so much with Lando Norris. We gained with both of them in the end. But Lando Norris won the race in the Drivers' Championship. Lando Norris has now gone ahead of George Russell. And Ricciardo's ended up creating a little bit of distance now between him and Alonso. I can't believe it says it there. Performance this season, 1 win, 2 podiums, 1 fastest lap, 1 pole position for Norris. He's having a great season. And in the Constructors, we end up going up by 27 points, getting so many points on Mercedes and pulling well away from Alpine. We should not end up in 5th. It's now a matter of fact of can we make up 55 points in the final few races to get 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. We won a race. Well, on that note, we'll see you in the next episode where we've got the Japanese Grand Prix and the United States Grand Prix. It's 3 episodes left. We've got 3 episodes to try and take that third place of Mercedes. But can we do it? Make sure to hit that like button, so that you've enjoyed this video, and comment down below your thoughts on that race. How in the world did we manage to win? Actually win a Grand Prix with McLaren? That's unbelievable stuff. And if you're new here, please do subscribe so you do not miss a thing. And I shall see all of you in the next video. See ya! I'm in shock. Complete and utter shock.